Welcome to the Men of Iron podcast, equipping men for growth in your faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances. Check out menofiron.org to learn more about how you can get involved in or support the vision of changing a culture one man at a time. Thanks for listening. Here's your host, Chad Zook.
Welcome to the Men of Iron podcast. This is episode 77, and my name is Chad Zook. I'm the host of the show. In this podcast episode, I talked to Doug Kauffman. Doug is a CPA and financial coach. He talks about how to gain financial clarity, and he also talks about how to have peace of mind when it comes to our finances. We also talk about some of the things that keep us from having peace of mind and financial clarity, some of the stumbling blocks that maybe we can land in. So Doug gives a very hopeful approach to this, and he also just wants to help people like you and I, because this is what he believes in. As a matter of fact, his mission statement is to deliver financial clarity and peace of mind. He is a follower of Jesus. He is also an alum of Men of Iron. So he's gone through the mentoring process. So he understands what we're trying to do here. He understands the work of Men of Iron. He understands how important finances are, so much so that it's one of our 5 F's, but he understands the financial piece. So he actually is leveraging all of his life's work right now into helping men and women and small businesses and some creative agencies to have financial clarity and peace of mind. Hopefully you get a lot from this podcast like I did in hosting this podcast. This podcast episode is brought to you by menofiron.org. At menofiron.org, you will be able to find all of the resources, the vast array of resources that are available for you as an individual or also as a group, maybe a church leader, maybe just have a core group of guys you just want to hang out and maybe help one another to go to the next level. We have all sorts of resources, whether it's curriculum, whether it's Men of Iron Plus, which is our $5 monthly subscription. That's for an individual. And then you'd gain access to all sorts of great videos and PDFs to help you excel in life. After all, we exist to change a culture one man at a time. So now I turn it over to my conversation with Doug. And in Everything Men, remember this: be a mentor, become a mentor, be a better man. Well, today on the show, we have Doug Kauffman. Doug Kauffman is a financial coach, and he is a CPA, and it is a pleasure to have you and all of your wisdom and experience on the show today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
You know, we had a conversation about a month ago, and I really enjoyed that conversation, and I knew that we were going to be able to tease up a great talk with some great talking points for the listening audience today, and just honestly, just a great chat about what you did this weekend, which I thought was great. Just give us, if you would just briefly talk about what's your context. Are you married, kids? What's that look like? And talk about the treehouse that you and I talked about a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, sure. It sounds good. Yeah, I'm Doug Kauffman from Lancaster, Pennsylvania here, married to my beautiful wife, Laura, for a little over 11 years now. We have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl in that order. 5, they're 7, 5, 3, and the little girl was born in January, so about coming up on 6 months old here. And we are with kids, with boys of that age, we are working on a treehouse project right now. And I say it's my dad and I are building most of it, with the boys' help a little bit in the dreaming world of how this treehouse is going to look. So I am sitting work behind a keyboard all day. So it's a nice change of pace to get out there and pound some lumber together and try and make something look the way I see it in my head or the way my boys see it in their head. We're having a lot of fun with it.
That sounds like great fun. And one of the things we talked about, I thought was kind of comical is how your kids are giving input into the treehouse, and a refrigerator is one of the things that a demand or an ask that they've had so far. I just want to say good luck with that. We'll see how that how that really plays out. But, that's such an interesting kind of metaphor for what we're going to talk about today, because the treehouse is something that you are building for your kids and something that you can experience with them, certainly, but they're going to experience that more just on their own without you, more than likely. And when we start talking about finances, I think that we need to have a long view of finances, kind of like a long view of that treehouse of you're building something for them. And I think when it comes to legacy, and we start talking about the financial piece, I think that we need to have a long view of money and being responsible with our money. And that's one of the great things that you help people do with your financial coaching practice. So how did you get into that market? And is that your heartbeat? And then as a kind of a segue, bounce off of that, how does your faith inform that work?
Yeah, sure. So the way we got into this world is really just feeling like this was an area that we could serve, and that we could help clients potentially, or individuals, families potentially, just because we felt like there was a need. The statistics, you don't have to look far at all to start seeing some statistics about half of the country only has less than $1,000 saved and couldn't handle a car breakdown or a medical emergency, something like that. And there's all kinds of information out there about how when I say we as Americans, as a country, struggle to manage finances well. We struggle to plan well. We struggle to control spending. And so we saw there was a need. We felt like there was a need to help people. And, we're the coach part of it is a little bit different than a financial advisor, in the sense that we're really not selling anything as part of our service. When I say selling anything, I mean like a product. We're not selling life insurance. We're not selling, financial. We're not selling a 401k plan, anything like that. We're just there saying, hey, what are your goals financially? Here's some good principles as far as building a solid financial foundation, and let's work towards these together. Let's have some accountability and some things like that. So that's why we got into it. We felt like there was a need. We felt like we the folks on my team, specifically one individual, is really passionate about personal finance, and said, hey, this is an area we can move towards as a business, and a service we can provide that we think will be valuable. Mm-hmm. The way that faith informs my work, I'd love to have a great answer to that question. There's some days where I feel like I'm asking that question to myself more often than not. I think that some of the ways that if we're talking specifically finance, the way that it informs my work is simply in giving. I mean, I think that's a key part of biblical finance, is generosity and giving. And there's, if you want to call it mandated giving, I don't know if that's too strong of a word in the tithing concept. And then there's generous giving, or giving beyond that, perhaps. So certainly that plays in to the way I operate and the way that I try to think about money. I think the other part, and this is, in the world that we live in, it's almost one of those pay to play kind of things, I think. But just integrity, honesty, a high level of trust is required for anyone we're working with, because they're telling us everything. They're telling us all about their finances. In some cases, on our business side of things, we have access to everything that business owner might have.
And you're also one of their, a kind of a helper, a caretaker of their future. So I'm sure there comes a bit of responsibility that you carry there, not only, doing things and maintaining privacy and respect, of all those types of things that I think are implicit in that work, but also I'm sure you carry a burden, because if somebody comes to you, you're like, you want to help them kind of reach their goals, whatever their goals may be for the future. So it's almost, I'm sure, I mean, if I were in your shoes, I'm not trying to project here, but if I were in your shoes, I would feel some responsibility of like, hey, I'm actually somebody who's partnering with them to help and be like a caretaker of their future, like the legacy piece of like, we're, helping them get to, again, their dreams, their hopes, whatever their aspirations are.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, and having that, taking that responsibility seriously is something that I do. I think it's something my team does really well as well. So the integrity, the honesty, that's huge in the world that we're in, and yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But circling back to what I said at the start, as far as how faith informs my work, like I said, I'm still figuring that out myself. Because there's days where I think about that. I think about, hey, I'm not out there necessarily, I call it on the front lines, sharing the gospel every single day. We get opportunities from time to time, and there's things that come up. But that's one of that's a big challenge for me. I think that's something that probably a lot of men are trying to figure out, unless you work in ministry, and even then probably trying to figure it out. But unless you work in ministry, it's like, hey, I'm going to work, and it may be a Christian work environment, so to speak, or maybe a secular work environment. But either way, how am I living out God's purpose through that? So yeah, that's when I struggle with. That's when I'm constantly wrestling with, hey, God, am I where you want me to be? Am I doing the things that you want me to do? Am I taking advantage of the opportunities you've given me? Am I even asking for, taking it a step further? Am I asking for additional opportunities? And that's what I often come back to. God, give me opportunities to use the gifts you've given me to further your kingdom. It comes down to that. And in my life, I found when I ask God, He does that. And
It's a good word. I think you're dead on. To some degree, I think we all should ask that question of, like, how is my faith informing my work today? And it's a day-to-day decision. It really, if you work doing what you do, it's going to look a little different. If you had somebody in your office and you're a counselor, it's going to look different. If somebody's a secular counselor, but yet, a Christian, if somebody works at a gas station, right, it's going to look different, but yet there should be a way that our faith informs our work. And I think that even our faith should inform our work even beyond evangelism. I think that even just doing good work glorifies God. This is my conviction. Doing good work glorifies God. So God is glorified by us doing good work, and I know that you're trying to do some good work and trying to help people. I love your mission statement that I saw on your website. And your mission statement says this, that you deliver financial clarity and peace of mind. Why is it the financial clarity? Why? That's an interesting choice of words, and I'm really drawn to it. Why did you choose those words, and what problems do you see that pertain to financial clarity?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that was a that was a specific choice. Chose that word for a reason, because I think it has a very I think it really encompasses what I'm going for as the leader of our organization. I think everybody who works with me kind of thinks the same way. So the easiest way I can describe that is the opposite of clarity, or lack of clarity, and we often call it a financial fog. And it's just this idea that a lot of people, whether business owners or individuals, feel kind of foggy about their finances. It's, you kind of look at it as a big picture. And if you picture, you're driving through on a foggy morning, it's like, I can see a little bit in front, but I really can't see that much. And it's a little uncomfortable, and things might be okay. Like we're safe, we're all right, but I just can't see that far out in front of me. We want to get rid of that. We want to lay out that roadmap. And even if what you can see doesn't look great, so you lift the fog and it's like, oh man, things, we're in a traffic jam now. We can see the traffic jam. Well, at least we can kind of see what's happening up ahead. We know what's coming. When you have that fog, there's a total unknown there. So our goal is to help to lift that fog for folks, and to show them what is in the future, to show them where they're at currently and where they might be going if things kind of continue as they are, and then help them to make whatever changes are necessary to change that course a little bit. If you don't like what you see in the future, well, let's figure out ways to change that. And And then let's have some accountability to make those changes to actually see those things through.
So what kind of tools would you use? Because I can imagine it's a matter of, you help them to have financial clarity. Okay, this is the current trajectory of your life and the decisions of your life, financially speaking. But also, I know that even in seeing that, the vision of that, you need tools, you need steps along the way. So what kind of tools do you use? And not to give away your whole coaching practice, but what kind of tools do you use that would help somebody to kind of get some traction, to kind of see where they want to go and help them have some clarity, but yet create movement? So what kind of tools do you use for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's two specific things that I'll give here, and I don't know that when I hear the word tool, I think software or specific spreadsheet or something like that, and neither of these are those things. So you cut me off if I'm not answering your question properly here, or what you were thinking. But two things that I think are really important in helping to lift that fog for an individual. One is a system to know where your income and expense are coming from and how much each one is. So that's baseline stuff. Like you got to know how much is coming in, how much is going out, and where it's going. There are tons of apps that help with that right now. Dave Ramsey has one with his company. I forget what theirs is even called. Mint is a big one. There's free options. You don't have to pay for anything. Personally, my wife and I use Mint, and it's a great way to just have that system. You can connect it to all of your bank and credit card accounts. It tells you where your money is coming from and where it's going. You can run great reports after the fact. If you're not tracking, you don't have a way to actually see where your money's coming or going. That's the first step. Just figure out what's happening, because to figure out where you're at now. You're never going to know where you're going if you don't know where you're at now. Where are we at now? Where are our expenses? Where's our income from? Second thing is, and the reason I don't have a specific tool there is because everybody works a little bit differently. And I think it really is one of those areas where you've got to figure out what's going to work well for you, make it easy, make it something that, like any system, it's going to take a little bit of work to maintain it. But if you get set up in an app that's going to work for you and a way to track that, it shouldn't take much time. It's not something where you're sitting down an hour a week, even maybe 10 minutes a week, just to make sure you're monitoring where things are coming from, where things are going. Second thing is more of a concept that we often see that's not monitored, and it's something that when it is monitored, it can lead to a lot of financial clarity, and that's the overall idea of net worth. So net worth is simply the assets that an individual or a family has minus the liabilities that an individual or a family has. It can be negative if you've got more liabilities than what you've got assets. Not necessarily a great situation if it is, but just monitoring that. And a good example of why it's important to monitor that is really simple. A lot of families will own a home or make an investment in a home. So they'll go out and they'll buy a home and take on a mortgage, and they'll be paying off that mortgage, and their cash may be staying about the same. Maybe have that savings account, but the cash is staying about the same, but net worth is increasing. One, because hopefully the value of the home's increasing, but even if the value of the home is staying the same, you're paying down that debt. So it can feel like, you go 10 years and you're like, I'm not getting anywhere. I don't have any more money in the bank today than I had 10 years ago. But you're paying down the debt, so the net worth number is actually increasing. It's a great measure to show that things are moving in the right direction, even if your bank account is staying about the same. And the opposite can also be true. Net worth can be going backwards or the wrong direction, and you can not know it. So the bank account could be staying about the same or even potentially increasing, but for one reason or another, maybe that net worth, debt's going up, credit cards or other liabilities are increasing, can have you going backwards, without even knowing it. Could be a really dangerous situation there. So just looking at that once a month, hey, where are we at? Not necessarily from a standpoint of, we're going to build an empire and we're shooting for that, whatever that net worth number is that you might be shooting for. Not monitoring just because of that necessarily, but monitoring it just to see which direction things are moving, where things actually going. So those are two big baseline things that I really think everybody should be looking at, at least once a month, a little bit of time, especially if you're married. Look at it with your spouse. It's gonna keep you on the same page. It's gonna give you a ton of clarity that if you're not doing it now, I promise you'll feel like you have a better overview or a better picture of your finances if you're just doing those two things.
One of the things I wanted to talk about in regards to that, and you didn't really mention it directly, but indirectly you did, when you talked about net worth. And I think, when you talk about net worth, you just basically gave two different kind of aspects when you start to understand your net worth. Either one, you can be encouraged if somebody feels like, well, man, I don't have any more money in the bank, I'm not able to save as much. Maybe they're paying off some debt, or maybe they just don't have that income stream, wherever they are on their journey. And yet one of the things that I see is the emotional tie with spending or with money. So there's the emotional tie of like, hey, we're actually doing the first scenario. We're actually doing a little bit better than what we thought we were. Like, oh, okay, well, our net worth is actually going up, although it doesn't look like we're putting more money in the bank. There's an emotional tie in there, and that emotion can help drive more willpower to make better decisions in the future. And consequently, the other side of that can be, well, I feel like a failure. I'm not good with money. My parents didn't tell me anything about money. Now things are so bad. I need a financial coach. Now I need somebody to tell me how to basically monitor my money. And I could just see how emotion plays so much a part of either good spending habits or bad spending habits. So how is it that you help people to kind of enter their world, but not be all tied into the emotions that have led to a lot of good and bad financial decisions?
So how do we deal with the emotional aspect of money?
Yeah, because I think it's impossible not to. I mean, if you have a spouse, I mean, statistically, you're probably going to have one spender and one saver. I mean, typically, people who I interact with, they would say, yeah, I'm probably the spender. And the other one may not say that they're the saver, but the spender would say, yeah, they're the saver. It's just that whole dynamic. And there's emotion tied in both ways. Like one person saying,
yeah, if you don't know who the spender is, it's you, right?
Exactly. So how do you help people in regards, to emotional spending, emotional saving, all of that? Because I think hoarding could be a part of this too. Emotional saving, I think, in many ways can lead to hoarding.
Get the false security
Right.
there in something like that. So one thing that we do is pretty simple. If we're doing any kind of coaching and there's a couple, we're bringing them, but they both have to participate. We can't do this one-sided. It's never going to work. So that's a big part of it. I think, I think in any situation, there has to be a desire to make a change. If you're going to come and work with us, you've got to take that step to say, I want to change. So there's already an emotional kind of commitment there in the sense that like, yeah, I recognize I could use a little help here and I want to make some changes. I think what I often, the way I often approach that is, highlight the things that are positive, celebrate the things that are positive, and ask questions about the things that maybe aren't so positive. Hey, the spending is a little high in these areas. Does that concern you? How do you feel about that? Is that something that you are okay with? Is that something that you want to change? Because once again, if we come in and just say, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, that's people might do that for a short period of time, but a good coach helps. A good coach walks alongside and supports. And yeah, the coach might be an expert in a subject, but the coach is really going to be there as a support, as somebody to provide pointers, but not somebody to necessarily say exactly how it has to be done. There's some rules of finance, just like there's rules of games. You take the kids baseball. Hey, you got to play by the rules. You got to play by the rules of finance. You spend more than you make, it's always going to be a problem. But I think taking the approach of saying, hey, how can we walk alongside you? There's a big accountability piece there as well. If there's a couple or an individual who we're meeting with, we're going to be talking about it. They're going to know that we're going to be talking about it. It's the same model as what same thing Men of Iron's doing. It's you get that accountability. That's a huge motivator to take steps in the right direction. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. I'm not sure if I got what you're getting at there or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're on the right track as far as what I was thinking. It's, you want husband and wife to be both together. You want the couple to be together. That way you're not gonna be able to make a good financial decision for a couple with one individual, because there's two people basically tied to those, to those spending practices, to the however it is that they're governing their money. Definitely that. And then also, I think just in the coaching piece, it's you're not telling them necessarily what to do, but you're helping them to, I'm sure that you're helping them to discern what a good goal is, and then how to reach that goal. And then once it becomes their goal, you're just encouraging them to do what they want to do. You're not telling somebody to do something they don't want to do. I mean, that's not a good, no good coach does that, right. Or parent for that matter. You want to try. I mean, it's just one of those things. People just tend to not really want to be told what to do, especially by a stranger. Instead, a coach comes alongside somebody and helps them to determine what's a good goal, and then help that person to be convinced that that's the goal that they want. So let me just help you reach your goal, right. Which I think is really valuable. And some of the things that I found really helpful, and I was really drawn to on your website, were your core values. And I don't want to drill into all of these, although I could, and I think they're incredible. So you say there's 5 different things. I'll just kind of mention these, then I'm going to land on 1 or 2. You say there's 5 core values that you do your work, your financial coaching work. It's you do it as servants, you do it in caring, being courageous, balanced, and innovative. And servants, it's because you say when you're in service to your fellow human beings, then you're in service to God. And I thought that was a really interesting and helpful way of looking at what you do. And this really cuts against the whole business paradigm that we see in the world today of just gaining, our pursuit is more money, more money, more money. I didn't see that in here in your core values, like making more money. This seems like God is on the forefront, and then benefiting the client is right after that, which I really felt like that was a breath of fresh air. How did you come up with these core values, and what is it that you think, or how do these things tie into your business plan?
Yeah, the way we came up with them was pretty simple. About 2-3 years ago, maybe, we actually sat down with the team. At that point, there was 5 of us, I think. We sat down. We worked with a coach who I was working with at the time. He walked us through an exercise of drawing out our core values. So together as a team, we said, what are our core values? What do we want to stand for as a business? The servants one, we didn't talk about it, but that loops back to what we were talking about a little bit before of how does faith inform the workplace? How does faith inform my work? And that is exactly what that says. When you're serving God, or when you're serving others, you're serving God. And that's important. That really is an important part of what we do. Our whole goal is to serve our clients well. We want to serve them. Financial clarity means something a little bit different for each person. So we want to figure out what that is, and we want to be able to deliver that. In the end, we're always driving at that mission. So the means by which we reach that end isn't always the same. But that's what we're driving towards. So that's a big one. The servants one, there's a reason that one's first. There's a reason that it's worded the way that it is. The courageous, the balanced, innovative, caring, caring kind of goes along with the servants one and saying, you got to be sincere. We can't just, we're not just out there just to make a profit, although we're for-profit business. We are trying to make money to, make team members have more opportunities, grow the business, that type of thing. But so that kind of, is almost a secondary there to the servants one. Courageous, balanced, and innovative is other things that we kind of felt like we were already doing. Courageous one is to help us as a business to always be reminded that we may need to have some tough conversations sometimes with our clients to say, hey, this is not working. This is not going the way that you want it to. This is, you got red flags, you got danger here. This is a problem. We're in a spot that something needs to change. Never an easy conversation to have, but we want to be having those types of conversations when we need to. We're not out there looking for them to just, create drama. But if there is something like that, we want to be able to have those conversations. We want to be able to speak candidly with each other as team members too. And, that's one area my team does a heck of a job communicating with each other. Whenever there's problems that do arise, which really feel like they're few and far between, they work well at, working out any differences. Balanced one, we look at saying, hey, we're not going to let work rule our life. It was really that simple. We're going to make sure that, work is important. We have to work. God has given us work to do. When we do it, we're going to do it well, but it's not going to take over life. Because I don't think the Bible says that it should. I think there's more to life than work, so to speak. And the innovative one is more just about, not falling behind as a business as a whole. So.
Well, I think it's interesting because most of these, just in the way that you talked about it, Doug, most of these are actually ways that you kind of govern things within your business, but also just as me, if I were a client, I would feel like, wow, that's amazing that you actually take care of your team. So if you take care of your team in that way, you're probably going to coach me in that way too. So if you're my coach, you're going to remind me, hey, work isn't everything. Right? Like, okay, you need to go out and have some fun. You need to blow off some steam. You don't need to do all these things. So the reason why I want to draw those out is because I know internally you as a team are governed by these things. And also I think that would reciprocate with men and women who would hear this podcast and maybe want to reach out to you through your coaching practice to know that you're that type of coach who you're going to be a servant of God and also serving them. And you see the two so interconnected, that you have a caring nature within your team and that you're courageous, you're willing to say hard things, and a good coach needs to be able to say hard things, and that you're balanced, that you're flexible in how you work, and you're flexible enough to help someone have financial clarity. Because just as you talked about earlier with the fog, you as a coach are going to help them figure out what that fog is. And that fog could be different person to person. So we need a coach, financial coach, to kind of help us to understand, whoa, I don't have clarity because this fog is in the way, and helping to identify what that is, and being innovative, just, being just a continual, improving business, and also helping your clients to improve. Well, today, Doug, this conversation has been awesome and it's been helpful. And I would just like to give you an opportunity. How can the listening audience follow up with this? Maybe they're inspired. They heard you talk about this and they're like, I think Doug and his team may be the type of person for me to help me to gain some financial clarity. How can people follow up? How can people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Best place to go, best place to start is our website, just kauffmancpa.com, KAUFFMAN CPA.com. I've got right there on the landing page a banner about the financial coaching program and next steps there. That involves setting up a no obligation initial call just to talk through some things, just about 15 minutes there. With the individual who's leading the financial coaching charge within our business. And then it goes from there as far as figuring out, hey, is this something that would be helpful? Is this something that would not be helpful? Definitely not a sales call, more of a call to say, hey, what do you want to do? And can we help you with that? That's the approach we try to take in any service we're delivering. Where do you want to go? What do you need help with? And are we as a business situated to actually provide that support or serve you in that way? If the answer is yes, great. Let's figure out how that's going to look. If the answer is no, great. Can we help you find somebody else who will be able to help you out in the situation that you're in? So yeah, easiest thing, just check out the website there, and there's links there, a contact form that you can fill out and take it from there.
Awesome. KauffmanCPA.com. Doug, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, Chad, really appreciate it. Thank you.
This Men of Iron podcast is brought to you by Men of Iron. If you're interested in getting involved in or supporting the vision of changing a culture one man at a time, or you simply want to know more about our Strong 27 mentorship experience, Equilibrium retreats, Anchored Man video series, or Men of Iron Plus, go to menofiron.org.